You ever see this guy with the pillows on Fox? My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. He is the greatest. The My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. And he's been with us right from the beginning.
Afternoon, America. Good to see you. Thanks for joining today on the Mike Lindell Show. I'm Vanessa Broussard. We had big news on the show yesterday. Mike Lindell making a huge announcement that he is considering a run for Minnesota governor. If you missed it here yesterday, here's that announcement.
I'm going to tell you right now, I am considering running for governor of the state of Minnesota because right now we have a voice that could be big enough where when I do my due diligence and we're going to do polling, we're going to get a couple different polls to be taken. We're going to be you do all kinds of due diligence. I'm just checking into all this now, but they're saying, well, why would you consider it now and you didn't consider it then? Because we got our voice back and all the lies that Waltz is putting out we will see through them. It won't just be me saying it or we're saying it on Lindell TV. The whole world will be screaming it, that these lies will be uncovered, and what are they going to do? Go, well, Mike Lindell, he was a crack addict. Yeah. What else you got? So there you have it. Rick, I kind of surprised you with that. I am considering it, and I'm going to do due diligence over these as we roll out this. I'm going to make some bigger announcements tomorrow, and hopefully that we'll find out that the polling will do and all this stuff will show. I think it's going to show. I live here in Minnesota. Everywhere I go, nobody wants Tim Walz. They don't. I mean, it's like even if you're a Democrat and you think he's a good Democrat governor, they don't even like him for what he did, these nonsensical things he did. So let's say you are a Democrat and you really believe that it's still the Democrat Party's still the same. You would not want Waltz. You would want anything but him. That's what I'm hearing all over the state of Minnesota.
I am absolutely shocked, and I am glad to be one of the first people here to actually in real time hear that you are faithfully considering a run for governor. I want to express that, number one, people who are watching this program, please pray for this decision one way or the other. Mike, I am going to help you in any way that I can when it comes to election integrity, exploring your campaign options. I'll make a call to a few people that I know in Minnesota to let them know that you are faithfully considering a run for governor. And let's find out what people think. And I would encourage people to reach out and share this post, and I hope that there will be a shorter video to get the discussion going in Minnesota. And with some of the things that we've talked about here today on this very show, this kind of puts a nice envelope and a package together for people to faithfully consider and pray about the budget, education, the tampons in bathrooms, bringing back common sense to Minnesota. I think is a wonderful platform, and people will probably dismiss you as being crazy. Well, guess what? You got to be crazy in these positions. I serve publicly in Minnesota as a small town mayor. I currently serve in South Dakota in the city council, and it is those of us who are prayerfully willing to publicly serve to understand that as small business owners, we can bring value based upon our life experiences to have a positive outlook for our fellow citizens and to rebuild our communities, because it is the love of Christ that we want to exemplify and allow people to understand their walk with Christ and to be able to share their gifts with other people to make our communities better. So thank you for considering.
I wanted to surprise you with that. And you know what? I look around and I'm going, our great president's such a mentor when as a businessman. I'm going, I look at this, I go, where's this going to end here? This is my state I grew up in. I'm seeing it just get destroyed. It's so sad. And now that he has become the spokesman kind of for the marketing for across the country. It's a game changer. So I'm looking at every single thing option and doing my due diligence, and we'll have a lot more for you tomorrow, everybody. A lot more surprises and.
Well, there you have it. That's the announcement. We bring in Rick Weibel, who was with us during that announcement. Rick, I think he stunned everyone, but you've been waiting on him to run for years. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, I have. And just because he's been so involved in Minnesota politics, he's been involved in the Minnesota business community. He's always been such a leader, and especially in his own personal life, where he's not just selfishly trying to redeem himself through Christ and the drug abuse that he had, but then he successfully builds a business. And you hear in the discussion yesterday of how he has a heart for people who are addicts, who were addicts, who are trying to recover and build their lives back, and he hires them along with veterans and anyone else who's willing to make a great product in Minnesota. And I should say not just products, but he's known as the Pillow Man, right? But he has so many other great products that he has developed over the years as well. And so that entrepreneurship and that spirit and that can-do attitude is so infectious, and it just makes everyone smile. And so as Minnesotans, people should be proud of business owners like that have had obstacle after obstacle. And that's the beauty of America, is that if you fail, you get to try again. And look at Mike Lindell. He is one of those business owners that has succeeded. And so for you and I, what a great blessing to be part of that yesterday. So I'm just so honored, and still kind of the phone calls that I've had have been very encouraging, where people are like, is Mike serious about actually considering running for governor? And I'm like, yeah, he's considering it. So you heard it live here on the Lindell broadcast. And that is absolutely incredible. And I would encourage people to reach out to Mike and also make sure that they're praying and talk with your friends and family and see what they think. And I've had good conversations last night and this morning with activists in Minnesota. And I am hearing mostly positive things like, wow, that is just absolutely shocking. And then of course, there's a few naysayers, just like, would he really want to do this? And then there's some people that don't like Mike's style, that feel that he needs to be a polished politician. But when we look at our President Trump, he is not a polished politician. And
I think people are kind of past that, Rick. We got a taste of that in 2016 with President Trump. And I think America is over the polished politician. They want a real person to come out and save, whether it's your city, your county, your state, the nation. I hit on yesterday just briefly, you have a businessman, President Trump. You have a businessman, Elon Musk. You have a businessman, Mike Lindell. These businessmen are doing so well, and they're not polished politicians. This is what the people want.
That's right. They want that leadership that has already been there. And true business owners that are successful in running medium to large size companies, obviously they're successful, their products are successful, they've learned that management style, they've learned to trust other people to carry the ball and develop other people to develop other products and ideas. And so I think when we look at the array of products that Mike has, as well as like the portfolio that Trump has, there are some similarities there where it is translational when you look at a government organization as a governor and you have so many different departments that have to be managed. There are some standards and expectations and deliverables that a business-minded person can actually help execute within a government agency. And so this is why you see so many business people that are successful when they become governors.
And we'll see what Mike Lindell has. I know he's a praying man and he's a godly man, so he's going to turn to his faith on this one before he makes a definite decision. But what we do know for a fact, Rick, is that we cannot have the current leadership there in Minnesota continuing to run the state. We talked about it also yesterday. Tim Walz, what a disaster. The man is just clueless. I saw him speak the other day at some rally he was doing, and he's making a tour with different people throughout different states States. I believe he was in Texas with Beto O'Rourke. And he says, well, I don't know what the answer is, but I don't like what President Trump is doing. As someone who is a leader, you need to have plans and you need to have answers. All he can do is attack someone else. But we saw a lot of that during the campaign with Kamala Harris. Again, disaster. But we need to get him out of Minnesota.
We really do. And Minnesotans don't deserve Tim Walz as their governor. The amount of pain that he has created in Minnesota, the discussions, the deterioration, the mostly peaceful protests, as CNN labeled that, the burning and loss of the police precinct in Minneapolis, the lockdowns in Minnesota, and he's supposed to be an educator, right? This is his background. And how do we take Minnesota from top 3 in the United States for education across the United States to 9th in 2022 and then 19th in 2024. That just doesn't work. And any business analyst would say, hey, we need to stop this trajectory and figure out what's going on and potentially hold the unions accountable to say, hey, let's sit at the table like a businessman and unions, what would you recommend to turn this around? What are the problems we are facing? And what can we do together as communities to fix this? How do we get back into number 3, number 2, and number 1? And especially now with the loss of the Department of Education at the federal level, states have to figure this out. And Mike is somebody who can figure this out when he's under pressure. He's become one of the nation's experts on election integrity. There was no manual there. And look at all the things that he's done. And look how successful he is in creating the Lindell TV broadcast. And everything else that he has touched in that regard has literally turned to gold. And that vision casting that Mike has is what Minnesota truly needs.
And he does have that vision. You know, another state that is, I think people there are starting to wake up. We're seeing some movement in California with their governor, who is another disaster, Gavin Newsom. And then Tim Walz, if I am not mistaken, was he on his podcast just recently?
You're right. And it was interesting to see those two great minds come together. And literally some of the first disparaging things out of Walz's mouth is that he wants to take on any Trump supporter and basically have them in some type of a WWE match. And it's really disgusting. If you have that video, please play it just in case the audience is unaware.
I don't know if we have sound on that video, but I'll tell you, we just saw a quick glimpse of both governors, and whew, I feel for the people of Minnesota. And oh, here we go. Let's see if we can have it.
Kicked most of their ass. I do think if they want to do it. I know I can run them, but I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we want to. Okay, we challenge you to a WWE fight here type of thing.
And so what's incredible is that then one of the WWE former stars had actually heard of this challenge, and he is a current politician, I believe, in the Chicago area, Kane. I used to watch him years ago, and phenomenal gentleman. And so he's accepted the challenge. But I think and it's for a charity. If you have that clip, go ahead and play that one too.
I don't know if you saw this. Tim Walz is now saying about Trump supporters, and forgive me, I'm just reading a quote from Tim Walz. I think I could kick most of their ass.
Oh boy, he'd be in trouble.
Is there any way to know?
Well, he's a loser. You know, I mean, the guy's a loser. He lost an election. He played a part. You know, usually a vice president doesn't play a part, they say. I think Tim played a part. I think he was so bad that he hurt her. But she hurt herself, and Joe hurt them both. They didn't have a great group, but I would probably put him at the bottom of the group.
And yes, that's actually a better segment, which is just great because Trump lays it out absolutely perfectly, and Trump, just doesn't take this seriously. But there is Kane has responded to it. And what's interesting is I kind of have a little of a different twist. Because we don't really promote violence like Tim Walz is doing. if I was running a campaign for Mike Lindell, because of the tools that he has at his disposal, and because of the enormous support that Mike has had nationwide, I would actually recommend that if Mike Lindell, just for charity to help out people in Minnesota, should actually soften the fight, and maybe we should have a pillow fight between Mike Lindell and Tim Walz, because we don't want to have any bruising of the governor of Minnesota. And maybe for charity, this is the way to go. And this is maybe the Minnesota way, is a little bit softer, and we can actually promote a business in Minnesota. We can promote the success. And with so many Minnesotans owning My Pillow, they can go to bed at night knowing that no actual serious injuries occurred during this fundraising event. So,
well, I love it. I wish Mike Lindell was on the show today to see what his reaction would be to a pillow fight. I think that's a great idea. We're going to have to put that one down, put it in our notes for later in case he does decide to run. Even if he doesn't decide to run, I think that's a great idea, Mike Lindell having a pillow fight for charity. Going back to the WWE, we do have Kane responding to that, if we can roll that video.
NCAA Wrestling Championships. Donald Trump knows optics. He's already attended the UFC Championship many, many times, NASCAR's Daytona 500, the Super Bowl, played golf with Tiger Woods. In other words, living every man's dream. Each stop reinforces that Trump and the MAGA movement fully embrace men and masculinity. And it's no secret that Democrats have a masculinity problem. Even The Atlantic admits that. But have no fear. Democrats have a secret weapon up their sleeves. Tough guy Tim Walz to the rescue. It's not us saying it, it's him saying it. Here he is talking to Gavin Newsom about how he would deal with MAGA.
I think I can kick most of their I do think if they want to do it. I know I can run them, but I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we want to, okay, we challenge you to a WWE fight here type of thing.
WWE got us thinking. WWE Hall of Famer Kane, real name Glenn Jacobs, is here with us, mayor now of Knox County, Tennessee. Is Tim Walz a worthy opponent for you?
No, he's not, but he threw down the gauntlet, so I had to pick it up.
All right, and this is now a challenge?
Yes, when Governor Walz said that he could kick most Trump supporters' rears. I've in a WWE style match, actually, I figured that, well, I mean, I may as well call him on that. If you're going to say something like that, you have to expect someone's going to take up the challenge. So I challenged him to a charity wrestling contest.
Have you heard back?
I have not at this point. And that's unfortunate because I already have a corporate title sponsor. I'm serious about this. Lots of people have pledged money. I figure we could raise several $100,000 with this event, and it would all go to charity. We'd split the gate 50-50. Half would go to my charity, half would go to his. So it's a great opportunity actually to have some fun, but then also to benefit a great cause.
Okay, so I'm a golfer. I never really watched wrestling, forgive me, but that probably doesn't come as a surprise to anybody. But in that sense, like in golf, you have handicaps, right? For better golfers, you know, they have to give strokes to the worst golfers. Sure. Would it be fair that like you'd have to do this with one hand tied behind your back or something?
Yeah, we could figure out some sort of stipulation to even the odds a little bit, because I think that he facing a huge uphill battle. I think he's about 6'1" and 230 pounds. I'm legitimately 6'8" and still about 300 pounds. And he does not have the pedigree that I have in combat sports. So, yeah, and look, I mean, I'd be open to that. We can have some negotiations about what kind of contest that he would feel comfortable that he could at least survive, I guess.
Okay, I would volunteer to be the announcer if you don't already have one. But I'm going to give you the last 30 seconds here, and I think this is important. How do Democrats get their the masculinity thing back? Because we saw this shift from working class men. Was it because of culture or economics they went from Democrat to Republican?
Yeah, that's a great question. And seriously, they have a huge problem on their hands. I think what's happened is they have just catered so much to the extreme far left wing of their party that they've completely lost their way. We're talking about a party for a couple of years who has basically been saying there's no difference between a man and a woman, who has been demonizing men and really demonizing strong people. And now it's like they're flailing, trying to figure out how to get back into the game, and they just can't do it. They're listening to their consultants, and it's not working for them.
Kane, I could not think of a better guest to head into the weekend with. Thank you very much, sir.
So, yeah, Kane is out of Tennessee, not Illinois, so I misspoke earlier. But what a great attitude. And this is...
I'm just in disbelief that this man who goes on stage doing high kicks and jazz hands thinks that he can kick the rears of all of MAGA. No. I mean, you just can't help but laugh.
Right. He is way out of his league. He is way... he is so far feral that we just cannot rein him in Minnesota. And so this is where you kind of like, who loves Tim Walz? Why are they not giving him advice that these are bad things to do? And even in that interview, Gavin Newsom is shocked and laughing at him like, I can't believe you just said something like this.
And that's a sad day when that happens, whenever Gavin Newsom is in shock that you said something, because he's as far left and crazy as they come. So when you have, Tim Walz coming in there, those two together, I mean, if I need a day where I'm down, Rick, and I need a good laugh, I'm going to go back and listen to that entire podcast.
Yeah, we're going to have to bookmark it. That thing is just going to keep going viral. I'm waiting for additional memes to come out regarding this, and it's like, at this point, I have some serious questions to ask. Is Gavin Newsom willing to tag team with Walz if they want to do a tag team type of special event later on? Who would he, and who's going to tap out first, in this type of an event? And so remember, it's safety first. And so this is where somebody like Mike Lindell could say, hey, Tim, you know what? Maybe we need to take a softer approach, and we'll challenge you to a pillow fight.
Let's do the pillow fight. I'm all for it. That is a great idea. You need to be in charge of something on the campaign, if there is one, because that is a wonderful idea. But another way, we love Mike, of course, and we always have, even before Lindell TV, and his efforts and his business structure and just the good person that he is. So we always want to support Mike. And while you are here, Rick, I want to talk about MyPillow. MyPillow is the tunnel to everything here with Lindell TV, and MyPillow does great work, their staff. But the big box stores, they're hammering down on Mike and MyPillow, so that's where the American people and the world, that's where you come in. You can shop on the internet, mypillow.com. Great savings there. His employees want to personally thank you for your continued support of MyPillow. They have a big allotment of their bed sheets that were earmarked for the big box stores this spring. But of course, as I just mentioned, the big box stores canceled on him. So that's where you come in. So we are passing the savings on to you. There's no middleman now, so you're going to get that wholesale price on famous bed sheets, of course. You can go to the website and check it out. Go to mypillow.com. Use the promo code Lindell, or there's a 1-800 number you can call as well. It's 1-800-859-2879. Again, that's 1-800-859-2879. Free shipping options are available. As we always say, this will not last long. When everything's gone, it is gone. So remember, go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Lindell, or call that number. Again, 1-800-859-2879. Rick, it's so important to support Mike Lindell, to keep him going, and to have Lindell TV, a voice when they tried to cancel his voice. It's just so important that he just keeps going and going and getting stronger and stronger.
Well, and also the talent on the broadcast too, former Diamond and Silk, and how they're able to still carry their message forward on Lindell TV. So many of the other great Patriots. And Lindell really is one of the, I don't want to say he started the conservative blog movement and also TV enterprise. But the reality, he's one of the many players. And so without him and so many of the other great patriots that started these platforms, our voices were so silent. And especially in election integrity, he was the only space that started that out. And being a natural leader himself, to basically dive in and investigate and talk to people around the United States to showcase what were the issues after the 2020 election that people were seeing, what were the irregularities, and then in 2021, 2022. And here we are still going forward with all of these different election integrity issues all the way up until even pass through Trump's executive order. And so to be able to get that message out and the details out to the patriots so they knew how they could participate and be prayerful in everything that they did. This is why I'm so proud of Lindell and what he's accomplished, not just with My Pillow, but the Lindell Show and all of the other broadcasts, and now finally going public as an enterprise as well. This gives testament that he is open to criticism, you know, and so being in the public domain like that, he already has the thick skin. Now, let's be real. He's a human, and the negative comments, that hurts. And so how is that prayerful? And I think we all need to kind of take that step back as a message and just kind of go, all right, are the politicians really doing a good job? And so if we just critically look at where Walz is at in Minnesota, we look at education. It's not where we need it to be. No kid deserves to have that kind of failure coming from the adults. So the adults need to get engaged and start looking for people that are going to help fix this. Then we look at the punishment of what's happening to the adults right now in Minnesota. Minnesota is considering a fifth tax bracket at 12.45%. That's ridiculous. And so that is just going to continue to hurt businesses and small family farms, small businesses, mom and pop shops. This is not affordable in Minnesota. It's not going to make it competitive. Then we look at protecting women in women's sports. It's not happening in Minnesota. And so women should not be afraid to participate and be able to learn in sports. It is so important for young ladies to be able to have that team building environment. And Walz is destroying that. And so where are the adults in the room? And when Mike talks about him as he was born and raised in Minnesota, and it's changed from when he was a kid to where he is now as a business owner, it breaks his heart. It breaks my heart. And so I've heard that through calls over the last couple of days of people kind of saying, yeah, we need a vision cast to get ourselves out of this period that we are in Minnesota. And this vision cast of where he's taken the state of Minnesota from a $17 billion surplus to a $6 billion deficit. Who does that? Who does that? And so this is a governor that is not performing at a level that voters want, you know. And so I wonder if sometimes, did he flip the grading system on us, where maybe he thinks that he's getting an A, which means A is awful, B is bad, C is commendable, D is delightful, and F is fantastic. You know, so maybe that's the bizarre
doesn't work
world
that way. Well,
Right. And so
we need new leadership in Minnesota, and we'll see what Mr. Mike Lindell decides. We always appreciate your support. Rick Weibel, thank you so much for coming on today. We know we're going to talk to you soon. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much, and take care, everybody. Stay awesome and keep praying.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Right now, we are keeping a close eye on 3 big elections taking place today. 1 in Wisconsin, 2 in Florida. Let's begin in Wisconsin, where a seat in the state Supreme Court is up for grabs. Brad Schimel is our choice on the ballot. President Trump is backing him, and Elon Musk was rallying there this weekend in an effort for people to get out and vote. Voter turnout is key. Also on the ballot in Wisconsin, election integrity. President Trump posting this to Truth Social. There is a very important referendum, question 1, on the ballot to amend the state constitution to require voter ID. This and other election integrity measures, including banning drop boxes and same-day voting with paper ballots, can only happen if you get out and vote. For state Supreme Court, make sure you vote for America First patriot Brad Schimmel against Susan Crawford, a radical left liberal with a history of letting child molesters and rapists off easy. She will be one of the most liberal judges ever elected, he says, which would be a disaster for Wisconsin and the United States of America. So important, please get out and vote yes on question 1 and vote for Brad Schimmel to the Supreme Court. Polls are still open right now. Wisconsin, go out and vote. Florida, you're up next. Polls are still open there as well. 2 House seats are up for grabs. In District 6, the race to replace former Representative Mike Waltz, and in District 1, replacing former Representative Matt Gaetz. Now, note this, it's a heavy Republican district, both districts, 1 and 6. But don't sit home, don't get complacent. Florida, we need your vote. Get out, head to the polls before they close. We'll have more on these races tonight on Lindell TV, right here on air, online, and also on social media. Also, breaking news coming into our studio, one of Democrat Senator Cory Booker's staffers has been arrested on Capitol Hill. According to the New York Post, Kevin Batts is the staffer. He was arrested for carrying a firearm on Capitol grounds. Now, he was arrested for carrying a pistol without a license. Again, that was on the Capitol grounds. All weapons are prohibited there on the Capitol grounds. He is a retired law enforcement officer, but that rule goes to retired law enforcement officers too. He obviously didn't get the memo. He should have known, but he learned the hard way. Most of us do know to check the rules before you go to the Capitol grounds, but one of Cory Booker's staff members did not do so. Again, he was arrested there at the Capitol last night. Also, a lot of other news coming out of the White House from today's press briefing. Let's bring in correspondent Kara Castronova with big news from there today. Hi, Kara.
Hey, how are you, Vanessa?
I'm doing good. Lots of news coming out of Washington, D.C. today. A lot of news coming out from Karoline Leavitt. One of the big topics included illegal gang members. Tell us about that.
Yes, Karoline spoke about a lot of things today. She really hit a little bit on Liberation Day tomorrow. A lot of people had questions for that. That's a huge day here at the White House tomorrow, but she really wanted to leave everything up to President Trump tomorrow to give the details on his plans for tariffs. A lot of questions from reporters regarding the illegal aliens that were deported and sent to that prison in El Salvador. And Karoline Leavitt, again, a brilliant job in defending the Trump administration's decision to send them down there to that prison, and a lot of reporters seemingly have an issue with that. So take a listen to Karoline Leavitt's response to that reporter today. And while we're waiting for that clip to come up, again, a lot of reporters really in the White House briefing room just very much interested, you could say, if not obsessed, with the migrants that have been deported off of American soil, these alleged Tren de Aragua gang members. So as a reporter, it's frustrating sometimes to sit there and listen to these questions. I wish these reporters had been asking these questions when American citizens were being persecuted by the Biden administration. You know, that was frustrating for me to just sit there and hear my fellow reporters really going to bat for due process. And that's not really a problem in and of itself. But my issue really is, why didn't they care about American citizens? And this is the question I really have wanted to actually ask some of these reporters. But again, everybody's entitled, I guess, to their free speech, like we here on Lindell TV, accept other people's opinions. But like I mentioned, it is frustrating. So I don't know if we have that clip up, but I really, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, the one about Karoline Leavitt, you know, talking about the illegal gang members being deported. But we talked about this a little earlier, Kara. You know, you have judges, local judges, who are trying to stop President Trump from flying these illegal gang members back to their home country. And then you have reporters who keep hammering the press secretary on questions about deporting these illegals when it should be celebrated that they don't belong here, that they are committing crimes. She went down a list of some of the crimes that are just recent, including, you know, a crime against an autistic woman. How terrible. You know, there are also Democrats who are opposing the Laken Riley Act. It does not make any sense to me. Common sense. President Trump talks about it all the time. Common sense. Common sense tells you that criminals that don't belong in this country shouldn't be here. So why would we put them here? And I just can't fathom the thought process on that.
Right. And she really did a good job in summarizing some of the really hideous crimes of these individuals, including sexual relations with a dead body that they killed and just stuff like that. And it was absolutely mortifying to listen to. And, you know, as a female who I don't know if a lot of, men feel the same way because I'm not a man. I'm a naturally born female. But there's a lot of fear right now, especially when we see, like you mentioned, like Laken Riley and so many of these women that jog and, that are out just minding their own business. I myself like to go jogging, and now I really have to refrain from doing so in the early day or later in the evening because it's terrifying. And as you know, Laken Riley was assaulted in broad daylight. So for these journalists to continue, and Carolyn Levitt put it really greatly, and if we are able to pull up that clip where people could actually just go check it out on Rapid Response 47, that clip of Carolyn Levitt just saying, I wish the journalists in this room would have as much questions about these women that were killed and raped as much as they are hammering me about the due process and about the rights of these illegal aliens. How come there's no questions being asked about these women who were brutally murdered? And I'm really trying to summarize to the best of my ability what she said, but it's all really contained in that wonderful soundbite if you guys want to check that out on X on Rapid Response 47.
Yes, and Kara, we're trying to get to those sound bites, but I do have one. You had mentioned earlier a big announcement about the EPA museum, and we do have some sound definitely from Lee Zeldin on that. You want to visit that museum after, you've done some research on it. Tell us about that.
Well, I would love. I plan on visiting this museum, and hopefully they'll let me take some shots in there so I could share it with the audience. But I have been onto the Green New Scam ever since I really started learning about this stuff a few years ago when they were trying to put Terra wind turbines on the offshore of the beautiful Long Island where I live. I go jogging every day, and to me, you're just messing with God when you're trying to install wind turbines as tall as the Eiffel Tower, 10 miles off the shore that are killing whales, killing dolphins, literally ruining people's peace of mind. People move to the beach and they go to the beach. Obviously, your psychiatrist will say things like, go for a walk on the beach to help your mental health. And now they're literally trying to industrialize our shorelines for technology that doesn't even work. So I really started doing research into the subject matter. Excuse me, Vanessa. Allergies. And, really started doing research into it. And I believe in a clean environment. I am not a climate change activist by any means. Old school environmentalists like Robert Kennedy Jr. and people that came before him were looking out for clean water so people could go fishing and not eat toxic fish, or things like clean air, or removing lead pipes from schools. But now it has just gone absolutely too far with these ridiculous solar panels that don't work in half of the houses that they're installed in that are subsidized by the government, or these crazy wind turbines that don't work. They actually create more of a carbon footprint than anything else, than actually not using them. So it's a real, and I'm really actually interested in going into this museum. It's only about half a mile to a mile away from where I'm standing right now. The one that Lee Zeldin, former congressman and now in charge of the EPA, Lee Zeldin, will be closing down because it's such a waste of taxpayer money. Like literally, I think $600 million I don't have the exact numbers. Again, that's in that clip on Rapid Response with Carolyn Levitt, but costing an average taxpayer $351, from what I remember, for a person to just go into this museum, which is supposed to be free to the public, but it's not because the taxpayers are paying for it. And literally the entire budget is going to security guards and other staffing. There's actually more staff there for the most part than visitors. So this is just a propaganda museum. Yes.
Yeah, Lee Zeldin talks about that too. We do have sound from Lee Zeldin from inside that museum. So much was spent on this museum, hardly any visitors to it. Take a look at this video.
If you were to visit the museum located here at EPA headquarters in D.C., you would learn a lot about the road to environmental justice and climate change. This museum claims EPA pursues its mission by advancing environmental justice, equity, and civil rights compliance. A timeline of key events conveniently omits any mention of President Trump's first administration. I'm currently standing inside of this museum, which was built and curated by the Biden administration with $4 million in taxpayer dollars. As if this wasn't enough of a price tag to fill a room the size of an apartment, this shrine to environmental justice and climate change cost the American taxpayer $600,000 to operate annually. This agency has been spending $123,000 on cleaning, $207,000 for security, $54,000 on maintenance, and an additional $54,000 on storage. From May 2024 through last month, only 1,909 members of the public visited the museum. Even though it is free admission, this museum costs you, the taxpayer, $315 per external visitor. I have pledged to be an exceptional steward of taxpayer dollars. So this shrine to EJ and climate change will now be shut down for good. I will do my part to help the American people learn more about the amazing work of our agency to provide cleaner, healthier, and safer land, air, and water. We will do so without paying over $500,000 in tax dollars on a museum that is barely visited and designed to tell an ideologically slanted, partial story of the EPA. Under President Trump, we are ending the practice of burning tax dollars on pet projects that do nothing to help this agency achieve our mission of protecting human health and the environment.
You have it, Kara. And then also, I believe we have sound. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt spoke about it today as well, right?
She did. She actually quoted Lee Zeldin, which I think is necessary just because obviously this is something that nobody's paying attention to. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. And again, Lee Zeldin mentioned it as a shrine to climate change, and it's become like sort of like a religion to these climate change activists, and it's all based on non-science. It's actually based on nonsense. Like I said, I've done a lot of research into this. I don't say anything that I don't look into, but none of this stuff is to actually save the environment or the climate. It's a literal money grab from elitists trying to make money. It's just a hustle. So I'm glad that this is finally getting exposed. I was concerned with the EPA, with Lee Zeldin. I didn't know which direction he was going to go. I'm just being honest and transparent. I didn't know which way he was going to go with this environmentalism, but he's going in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. I'm very proud of him because he is from Long Island.
All right, and we do have that soundbite with Karoline Leavitt. Take a listen.
Because you did bring up DOGE, I do want to tout the incredible efforts that have been made at the Environmental Protection Agency. And Administrator Lee Zeldin is just doing a tremendous job. Just yesterday and today it will be going into effect. He announced that taxpayers will be saved $8 million in annual lease costs by moving staff out of the 323,000 square feet of space that the EPA currently occupies, which is completely unnecessary. Yesterday, Administrator Zeldin also announced he will be shutting down a museum that the Biden administration built to tell a selective story about the EPA's history and climate change. It was a real pat on the back to President Biden. And guess how much American taxpayers paid for it? $4 million for this museum that I think only 1,000 visitors saw last year alone. And it will cost American taxpayers $600,000 per year to operate this museum. Well, it's not going to exist anymore. We're going to save taxpayers those critical funds. And Administrator Zeldin is very proud to announce that. And just at EPA alone, and the cuts that they have made, they've saved taxpayers more than $22 billion in wasteful grants and spending.
Yeah, there's so many more
spending.
things.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Go ahead, Vanessa. I didn't realize you were going to
I was
say
going to say
anything.
wasteful spending, another way that, they are trying to save taxpayer money. We're definitely going to keep an eye out on that and the EPA and the great job that they're doing there. I want to go back, Kara, because we do have that soundbite from the illegal gang members from Karoline Leavitt and just how criminal these people are. Take a listen.
And let me tell you why we've made this commitment. MS-13, may I remind each and every one of you, is a brutal and vicious gang. They raped and strangled a 20-year-old autistic woman to death in Maryland. They hacked 4 people to death with machetes in a park on Long Island. They have kidnapped, sexually tortured, and shot a teenage girl in Texas after she insulted them, allegedly. Killed and mutilated a 17-year-old girl in Virginia, stabbing him 16 times and cutting off his hands. They beheaded and cut out the heart of a man in Washington, D.C. They raped and murdered a 13-year-old girl in California. They sex trafficked a slew of young girls, including one who was just 12 years old. Raped an 11-year-old girl in Brooklyn while her brother was in the room. Sex trafficked a 13-year-old in Maryland and Virginia. Miles away from this White House, even beating her 26 times on her backside with a baseball bat. Pressured homeless New Yorkers to undergo unnecessary surgeries such as spinal fusion in order to bolster their fraudulent lawsuits. These are vicious criminals. This is a vicious gang. And I wish that the media would spend just a second of the same time you have spent trying to litigate each and every individual of this gang who has been deported from our country as the innocent Americans whose lives have been lost at the hands of these brutal criminals. We maintain our position, and very strongly so.
Well, there you go. Karoline Leavitt on just how terrible these criminals are they're trying to get out of our country. Kara.
Exactly. And, you know, I think the media kind of shut up on the topic after that because that was like a smackdown. Like, how do you argue against that stuff? These are people, American citizens, but regardless, people, mostly women, they're being brutally murdered. And again, the mainstream media seems bent set on getting the backs of the alleged criminals before these people that have been murdered, maimed, and killed. So it's frustrating. But I think that the American public is really on the side of, I think, deporting these illegals and justice for these women.
Absolutely. While we have you, Kara, I want to talk about journalists. There's a change now under the Trump administration. Journalists are
right
podcast inside of the White House. Give a on what you're seeing there.
Yeah, so it's something that's been a work in progress, I think, originally starting with Karoline Leavitt, rearranging things here at the White House when they took back control of who gets to actually have access to the president. And I think that all really started with the AP, with everything going on with the AP, with the Gulf of America and the Gulf of Mexico battle between the White House and the AP. But for the most part, that's where that all started, with the White House Correspondents Association having control over who gets to go in the Oval Office and ask questions of the president. That was removed from the White House the White House Correspondents Association by the administration. And now they allow for new media, hopefully Lindell TV one day will get a chance at this, smaller media companies that are not legacy mainstream media to actually go into the Oval Office and ask questions of the president, which is great because this is a free country where we have freedom of the press, and freedom of the press does not just mean freedom for legacy press and privileged entitlement for these mainstream media companies and journalists. I think just because they work for these tremendous corporations, that somehow they're better journalists than the rest of us. And it's offensive. So there's a seating chart at the White House. There's about 50 seats in the briefing room. And that is something that's been spoken about, I think, over the past week. Karoline Leavitt did a hit yesterday on a news station talking about, how the White House is possibly considering rearranging the seating in that briefing room and taking away the privileges of the White House Correspondents Association, who normally hands out those seats. And anybody watching, if they guess that most of those seats, if not all, go to mainstream media, most of them leftist leaning, you would be accurate and correct. And the rest of us, real journalists, citizen journalists, journalists that work for organizations like Lindell TV, have to find standing room, and sometimes even, stay there for hours just to get a spot. So really, I'm welcoming this. I think this actually shows more freedom of the press than the opposite, like the mainstream media will have you believe that the president is trying to take away privileges of journalists, when in reality, it's just giving all journalists a fair shake, including myself.
Absolutely. We're only moving forward from here. Already a big change and improvement from the last administration. Caroline Leavitt, President Trump, they said it in the beginning. Times are changing. The days where people just watched the three local or news channels in their hometown, which is also affiliates that everyone knows. This was decades ago. We are in 2025. We have social media, we have podcasts, we have all of the things, and these people have, and these networks have millions of followers. So we have to reach out to their followers as well. So as times change, we have to adapt to that, is what they were saying. And I think we're on the right path, and it's only going to get better from here, Kara.
Definitely. And if you want to take a quick listen, there is that clip of Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, speaking about this. And like I said, no administration ever before has actually put a spotlight on what goes on here at the White House and the monetization of the White House. That you have these large press organizations like AP and Reuters that for a very long time have had full access and to the pool feed, which they charge people to subscribe to other media outlets. So they're making a ton of money. And why do they have access to the pool feed? My question is, why them? Why these 2 or 3 elitist organizations? So that's something that I never knew before. Caroline Leavitt really brought it to the attention of journalists like myself. And I'm one of the only ones reporting on it because guess what? The mainstream media is not going to talk about something that has a negative impact on themselves.
Absolutely. Let's listen to that from Caroline Leavitt.
As for switching up seating in the briefing room, it's something we are seriously considering. And we tried to broker a meeting with the White House Correspondents Association board today to discuss that matter. But unfortunately, their president sent out a fundamentally unserious email to the rest of their membership, making it clear that this is a group that doesn't care about press freedom, transparency, and access for all media voices, but just cares about having their monetized monopoly over the briefing room. And I would remind them that the briefing room is part of the people's house. It belongs to the American people. It does not belong to elitist journalists here in Washington, D.C.
So I couldn't have said it better, Vanessa, and I'm so glad she's bringing attention to this because this is something that I have struggled with, really being here and seeing how this White House is monetized for certain very large corporations to continue to have a monopoly on the news. And nobody better than President Trump, obviously, and his team, like Caroline Leavitt and others here, to finally bring attention to that. And they're absolutely right. This is the property of the American people. The White House that is behind me right now, it is not the property of the elitist journalists who think that they have some sort of monopoly on the seats in the briefing room or on coverage coming out of this White House.
All right. Well, Kara, so good to have you on the show. Thanks for that great report today.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. So nice to see you.
You too. Well, the DOJ also fighting people terrorizing Tesla vehicles and Tesla properties. Multiple arrests have already been made, more announced this week, and more are coming. Here's Pam Bondi.
I've made it clear, if you take part in the wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla properties, we will find you, arrest you, and put you behind bars. Today, I'm proud to announce that the Department of Justice has unsealed federal charges against another Tesla attacker. We've charged Cooper Frederick in the firebombing of a Tesla dealership that occurred on March 7th in Loveland, Colorado. All of these cases are a serious threat to public safety. Therefore, there will be no negotiating. We are seeking 20 years in prison. The crime was committed in Colorado, and thanks to the great investigative work by the FBI, the defendant was arrested in Plano, Texas. Let this be a warning. You can run, but you cannot hide. Justice is coming.
Yes, it is. Unless you want to spend 20 years in prison, we'd advise you to stay away from vandalizing Tesla properties. It's a crime. As she just mentioned, you will be arrested and you will be jailed. Well, if you missed it, in case you did, it was a flashy day inside the Oval Office last night. President Trump signed an executive order with no other than Kid Rock standing by his side. Take a look.
I know him as Bob, but he's been a good friend for a long time, many years, and he's been after something that is for the good of a lot of people.
Real quick, anyone who's bought a concert ticket in the last decade, maybe 20 years,
no matter what your politics are, knows that it's a conundrum. You buy a ticket for $100, by the time you check out, it's $170. I would rather be, you know, a hero to working class people and have them be able to come attend my shows and give them a fair ticket price. I can't control that right now, so hopefully this is a step.
So I think you've been trying to get this done for 20 years or something. You said Trump got it done in 2 weeks.
I know a lot of artists and a lot of fans who love concerts and music are going to be very appreciative.
All right, cracking down on price gouging and ticket scalping in the entertainment industry not only helps the musicians, but it also helps the concert goers. So that executive order is now signed. We are running out of time here. We want to remind you that Fisher Gold is the place to go when it comes to securing your wealth. It is a simple setup. All you have to do is go to MikeLindellGold.com. That's MikeLindellGold.com. Check it out. It's endorsed by Mike Lindell. For qualifying orders, you could get a free coin and up to $20,000 in free silver. They are a conservative company. They share our values. They support you and all of Americans and hope that you do well. That's why they want to help you with your finances. Let them know that Mike Lindell sent you. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching The Mike Lindell Show. I'm Vanessa Broussard. We do leave you today with some little gardeners working around the nation's capital. It's a cute video. Enjoy the sights and sounds.
You ever see this guy with the pillows on Fox? My pillow guy, Mike Lindell. He is the greatest. The My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. And he's been with us right from the beginning.